Hey guys, this is Super Bowl 26 MVP Mark Rypien, and you're listening to Jim on Base.
Welcome back to another episode of the Jim on Base Show. For today's very special guest, we have on a Super Bowl MVP and Super Bowl champion. He was also a two-time Pro Bowler, and he's quite the golfer too. Please welcome the great Mark Rypien. Mark, thanks for coming on.
You're welcome, Jim. Thanks for having me. Appreciate the introduction. And Pro Bowler makes it sound I was like bowling, like Earl Anthony and Rod, those guys back in the day, you know.
Wow, are you a bowling guy? Because I grew up in a bowling family.
I have some good friends. I did bowl when I was younger, and haven't been out much now. My bowling is with grandkids and bumper sides, which I need more so than they do.
Well, that's great. And where are you now? Are you still in Washington area, or where do you live?
I'm up in Spokane, where I grew up. Once I retired, came back here, and most of my family's here. Ironically, my kids both moved back east. My daughter Angela is in Orlando with two of the grandkids, and my other daughter Amber and her husband and another granddaughter are in Baltimore still, and looking to move into their new home here pretty soon. But luckily enough and blessed enough to have them all come out this Christmas. They're going to be out next week for about 2 weeks and spend time with Grandpa and Dad. So it's going to be a pretty fun Christmas.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And, obviously you've been retired from the game for a while, but you're still a busy guy. You get around, you're doing golf tournaments.
Yeah, I just finished doing a wonderful event, the Payne Stewart Foundation, which is going into basically inner cities and the underprivileged and introducing them to golf, not necessarily just golf itself, but, life skills to move on from. So Payne was such an icon in golf, and his son Aaron is doing a tremendous job in the foundation. And so had a chance to go back last week and play with Ken Duke and Mark Calcavecchia and Kevin Millar and some of the country music, Mark Wills and those guys, and get a chance to Randy Hauser to play at the Floridian to raise money for the Payne Stewart Foundation. So spent a couple days there, which isn't too bad considering we've got about 6 inches of snow on the ground here in Spokane. But it was really a great event and raised money for a great cause, and it's pretty near and dear to them, and to keep his legacy going is pretty amazing. Payne was quite the player, but not only that, was quite the personality and what he did for the game of golf, what he continues to give back to the game of golf, even though he's not here with us, but in his honor is pretty spectacular.
Yeah, and like you said, it's pretty special to do something you love, but you're also golfing for a good cause, so it's a win-win.
Absolutely, and I love the game of golf. Not much golf here in Spokane unless you're in a simulator somewhere, which I might be later on this afternoon. So,
well, you mentioned your grandkids coming next week. How many do you have? And it's got to be a fun stage of life to be in.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, they're all ages. My oldest is Malaya. She's 14 and going to get ready to go into high school next year, and she's just quite an athlete. Got a great golf swing in herself, and but she's passionate about other sports and doing a lot of things. I think that's one of the things that I've always kind of encouraged to our youth today, Jim, is to get involved in just not just one sport. I mean, she's involved in basketball and volleyball and opportunity to play golf and individual sport, but still to have different teammates in different areas and to learn to get along and play within a group is pretty special. So she's playing in the championship game tomorrow afternoon in Orlando and in volleyball. So they made it to semifinals last year, and this is her last year in the 8th grade, and she's 6 feet tall and just a real athletic. More important, she's a great kid. And so she's the oldest. My middle guy is my grandson, the only grandson, Makai, and he's a 100% boy. And every time they call me Judgy, and because Polish and I'm Polish. I'm in I'm in the Polish American Hall of Fame in Detroit, but Judek is Polish for grandpa. So it was hard for the kids to pronounce Judek. So they call me Judgy. So every morning he wakes up, Judgy, you want to play football? You want to play baseball? You want to play something? He just wants to go. I don't know he gets exhausted and he falls asleep and sleeps pretty well. But I fall asleep and I sleep really well when he's around too, because we're going 100 miles an hour. And whether it's indoors or outdoors, I know we'll be out in the snow doing something and probably playing football, knowing him. But he's the oldest grandson. And then Merrick is my granddaughter with Amber and her husband, John, who I mentioned before we got on the show, is also a firefighter like yourself. And he's a lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps and just graduated a couple of years ago, cyber defense school. It was just an amazing 2-time cancer survivor himself. And interesting thing about him, when he went to officer school, he was diagnosed with cancer, and he was smart enough to freeze some of his stuffs, so
Mm.
that later on in life, when he got married, luckily with my daughter Amber, that about 3 years ago now, they put the things together that they need to get together, and formed her beautiful granddaughter Merrick. And Amber,
Wow.
my daughter, worked at Under Armour. She for about 6-7 years with Kevin Plank, and was head of their philanthropy there. She worked for Heart of America, and just as got her heart always kind of in that way. Went to Alabama, worked for Coach Saban at
Mm.
Alabama, and just had a wonderful experience there that led her to greater things now. And so she's amazing, and looking forward. Actually, we're trying to get her with the Melinda Gates Foundation,
Mm.
and work remotely from there back east. And so we're working on that. So if you got some plugs for
Yeah.
Melinda, if you know Melinda at all, and or Bill, that would, well, probably not Bill, maybe just Melinda now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she's always looking to do good things, and so we're excited to have them come out. And then Merrick's our youngest granddaughter. She's gonna be turned 3 in April, or excuse me, May, and just a wonderful. Not sure yet if she's got any athletic genes, but she is just the cutest little thing you've ever seen. So we'll see.
Well, I guess the big question then is, do you have all the Christmas shopping done then, or?
It's interesting. I've got most of mine done. Them coming out here and getting them out here was a Christmas gift in itself. And then secondly, just to give them something, at least the older ones, just a gift to say, hey, appreciate you.
Yeah.
But the younger ones, of course, you spoil them a little bit and get them 2 or 3 gifts. So I've got most of that done, but I'm doing a lot of
Nice.
decorating now.
Okay.
So that's kind of a fun thing. I'm put lights up in the back yesterday. Wish I had a picture of it I could send you, but put some lights up in the back and getting them done in the front. I was going to do it earlier in the week, but I was doing indoor stuff, and then it snowed like heck, so I had to take a day off from all that. But I'm going to get the lights up today, so it should
Very
be
nice.
fun. Yeah, very festive. So
Yeah.
by the way, happy holidays and Merry Christmas to you and your family too, Jim.
Yeah, you too. And it made me think about all the snow and the winter weather, how lucky we can be on the West Coast. I had Ryan Sandberg on before, and it was during this time, and he mentioned how he loves golf, but the course was covered in snow, and I'm not really used to that. So I guess being on the West Coast, you can get a lot more golf in.
Yeah, well, he's in Chicago still. I think he was up.
Yeah.
Forget the name of the course, but it's one of the nicer courses up to the north of Chicago. But you also know that Ryan's a Spokane guy, don't you?
No.
Yep. Ryan went to
Ah.
high school here in Spokane, went to North Central. He's couple of years older than me, but he was just obviously amazing. Signed to play football, quarterback at Washington State
Mm.
University, my alma mater, before, and then a Hall of Fame guy like him, and just wonderful. What he's done for baseball, and amazing to watch him play, and know that I saw him when I was a kid growing up, and I just admired what he did, and how he went about doing his things he did, and so it's pretty cool.
Well, speaking of fellow golfer, we got to get him at the American Century Championship.
Oh, it'd be great to get Ryan there. It'd also be great to get the other Spokane guy there. I know they've John Miller from NBC has mentioned
Mm.
several times that he would love to have John Stockton come out. And I've talked to John, and John's pretty private, but John's a Spokane kid here. I did play high school basketball against John, high school baseball against John. My claim to fame
Wow.
in basketball was I held him to 32 points a game in high school. So that's
That's
not
pretty
bad. I mean,
awesome.
he was
Yeah.
only averaging 10, so he only got 32 on me. He said, "Oh, I got Rypien guard me. I'll just take him to the hole," and he schooled me left and right. But John's been a great ambassador here in Spokane for Gonzaga things and other charitable organizations here in town, and just a good friend, and always good when I get a chance to see him too.
Well, how often do you, in a perfect world, how often do you get to hit the golf course per week?
Probably during the summertime, when weather's good here in Spokane, I probably get three times, 4 times. We have a Wednesday Frogger. It's kind of like our Ryder, or not Ryder Cup, FedEx Cup here that we have
Mm.
at Kalispell Golf and Country Club in Spokane, formerly Spokane Country Club, that I've been a member at for like 35, 40 years. But back in probably, I'd say, that, and play the Wednesday game there that we have, and then both my brothers are good players, and brother Tim's a member there also, so him
Mm.
and I get out quite a bit, probably at least twice a week together. It's always good to play him because he always gets a better part of me. He's like a 15-time club champion at our
Wow.
club, and he's qualified 2 or 3 times for the mid amateur tournament. Missed match play by 1 stroke both times. 36 holes in mid amateurs. You play 36 holes, and if you're one of the top 72, I think, you get into match play, and he's missed it. There's been 150 guys. He's missed it by one stroke a couple times. But anyways, great player. Played baseball, University of Creighton, and went on come back and played junior college here, and then played for the Toronto Blue Jay organization for
Wow.
5 years and made it up to AAA, and then just kind of said, life goes on. I got to raise a family, and so him and his wife Julie live here, and that's actually Brett's dad.
Oh, okay.
Plays for the Jets now, but
Yeah.
and then my brother Dave played at Gonzaga University baseball, Gonzaga University. Then both my brothers played for the Canadian Olympic team. We're Canadian
Oh,
nationality wise, and brother Dave played in Seoul, Korea, in the Olympics in Seoul, Korea in 1988, and played on the Gonzaga baseball team. And so we got an athletic family. My sister Shannon played volleyball in college, and so just got quite a bit of the athletes, and all the way down to our offspring, our nieces and nephews, and our good little athletes too. Played high school, college, and so we got a pretty good pedigree of a family that come through, and happy to see them grow too.
well, speaking about golf, you mentioned your brothers being good golfers too. You won the inaugural American Century Championship, right? So, jokingly, is that close to a Super Bowl victory or?
Well, ironically, it's more difficult because you're out there on an island. It's only you and you only. You and my brother Tim, who caddied for both my American Century Championships. First one in 1990, the second one 2014. 25 years later, everyone wonders what I was doing in between those 25 years. And I was having a lot of fun because that's just a wonderful place to be. A chance to take family and friends there, and we enjoyed a lot of great memories and still do. And haven't played in the last 3 years. It's kind of a changing of the guard too. They periodically need to know that us old guys kind of go by the wayside. But I had many great memories there. I went in the inaugural event in 1990 when Jim Carvallis at that point in time was the kind of the tournament director, and kind of kicked things off. Azuzu was our major sponsor in 1990, and Tom Dreesen and Frankie Avalon
Mm.
played, and so yeah, it was great. There was maybe only about 15, 20 guys at the time that really had a legitimate chance of winning, and luckily I made birdie on the last hole, and Dick Anderson, who was another great player from the Miami Dolphins, undefeated season, was in the woods in number two, hit his second shot as I'm sitting right behind the hole, and he needed to make eagle to tie.
Mm.
But as the ball's going in, I go, goodness, he might make, this is a stroke play, he might make double eagle and win this thing. Just whisked by the hole by inches, and it was about 20 feet away, missed the 20-footer for eagle, and so I won by a stroke. So, and then they had the Stableford started in about 2000 in NBC Sports, and John Miller and Jonathan Thomas from American Century have basically done a wonderful job at creating an environment and making it Stableford, because I mean, after a double bogey you can pick up. We don't want them to see guys making 10s and 11s and out there, including myself. I've made some 7s and 8s out there at times of the stroke play, and so you got to pick the ball up and go to the next hole with -2 on your card instead of having to sit and sweat out and people watching you and going, what the heck is he doing? And so it was good, and I actually had one of the best rounds ever. My final round, it was delayed the last 2.5 holes by rain, and Annika Sorenstam and
Mm.
Jeremy Roenick were tied at the time and ended up making eagle birdie the last 3 holes when he came back from the rain delay to win. And Jeremy still reminds me of it all the time. He goes, "You son of a gun." Maybe he's not quite the words he
Yeah.
uses. And then Mike McGee, Annika's husband, says the same thing. Really, eagle birdie, and to beat one of the greatest female golfers,
Yeah.
it was awesome, and she's just a wonderful ambassador for the game of golf. And so that was probably my highlight was then. And compared to winning a Super Bowl, I mean, I had as many as 20, 30 people there at the tournament in Tahoe that year to celebrate with, whereas I had 51 other guys in Minneapolis, and hundreds of family that flew out from all over the country, mostly Canada and Eastern Washington, and the East Coast and Virginia, that watched the Super Bowl. And I think that was more rewarding just because of the platform, and know that in the world,
Mm-hmm.
to be a world champion, and have been able to be on 2 of those world championship teams. The year Doug won in 87, 88, beating Denver in Super Bowl 22, and then to come back and do it as we did, and in the fashion we did it in 1991, 92 was pretty amazing.
Well, another person that I think might make these golf tournaments a little bit more interesting is I hear some whispers that Tom Brady might be making the rounds. I know he's going to be at Pebble Beach, so I
Well,
wonder if.
Tom's played at Pebble Beach quite a few years now in a row, and got a pretty good golf swing, and watch him play at in Montana, with
Mm,
DeChambeau and Mickelson, and I think not sure who else was there playing. I think Steph might have been there too. But anyways,
mm,
it's just and Steph obviously last year was amazing. I
yeah.
mean, first and foremost, I just love him as a human being, and having a chance to meet him over the years in Tahoe, and then watching what he's done in basketball. I mean, it's just incredible. And
Yeah.
I had no idea his first year when he came there and he shot a number. I'm looking, Steph Curry had 19 or 20 points, and he's up there by the lead. And he goes, "Yeah, I played some golf, Rip." I go, "You must have." And then to watch him over the years, not only his golf game gotten better, but I mean, he's just incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
the athlete that he is, and the putt he made at I think number 12
Hmm.
on the first day, and then the hole in one,
Yeah.
and the hockey guys trying to catch him. I think it was great for the game, and
Hmm.
I think everything he's done has been great for the game. I mean, I admire him for how he does it, how he handles himself on the court, and I'm just in awe watching him play. And I think to see him win, I was probably one of many. Obviously, a lot of people there and people watching. I was one of many that was excited to see him win against Marty Fish, who arguably
Yeah.
is
He's.
maybe the best celebrity golfer in the world right now.
Yeah.
So
Well, it makes me wonder too. I had John Burkett. I
yeah,
don't know if you remember him, the baseball player, and he's a pro bowler
Josh
now.
Beckett, Josh Beckett,
Or no,
Josh Beckett.
John Burkett. He played for the Braves and the Giants. I don't know
Oh,
if you
okay.
remember
Oh,
him.
okay. Josh Beckett played in Tahoe too.
Yeah,
Yeah, John
exactly.
Burkett. Yep, yep, yeah, yeah.
And John told me that what threw him off was when he got into bowling, the quietness, because he's used to everyone screaming and yelling. So, as a former football player, does the quietness on the golf course kind of weird you out compared to what you were used to?
Yeah, I've got white noise anyway. So I mean, if there is some baby screaming or someone yelling forward next fairways I'm hitting, I rarely hear that. I
Mm.
mean, I don't flinch much, and I play so fast. I don't give people a chance really to, to create any ruckus around or whatever. I always loved one of the things that people didn't back in the '90s when Michael Jordan played. I loved playing with Michael. The one thing you knew playing with Michael, and they always not recommended me, but they knew I was cool, knowing that Michael had so many people following him, and that people would be walking and talking, and as you're hitting balls, and it's part of it. I mean,
Hmm.
we're not a golf tour, we're a celebrity entity that's playing golf, and so they knew it didn't bother me much. Plus, the other thing about having Michael is usually you'd have about you know, 3 or 4 or 5 deep on the green. So if you did hit one that was a little bit thin, you had a bunch of people blocking your ball from going into worse places than it was. So, and Michael, I see Michael quite a bit. I've seen him like twice now. I've played his course, the Grove 23, in Florida, and he's such a good guy. He was always so fun to play with, and I admire him not only if from his sport, but just getting the chance to see him every now and again just brings me back to those days where we played and just
Yeah.
enjoyed being around someone of that nature, that really basically can't even go into a grocery store even today, without someone recognizing who he is and what he did. So,
Yeah, exactly. Well, I know that you're from you're Canadian, but you grew up most of your life in Washington, right? So I was curious. Do you know why your parents chose to move here, and what do they do for work?
well, my mom's mother moved prior to 2 to 3 years before us moving down here, and most of my family roots come from Canada.
Mm.
So, from a standpoint of where my dad grew up and my mom grew up, were coal mining towns. They saw I think having 5 kids too, four at the time that were born in Canada, and then we had my sister Shannon down here in the U.S.
Mm.
He saw that kind of the writing on the wall growing up in a small town. There wasn't a lot of opportunity. So they felt that this was a good window and a chance to come down here and just kind of start life again. My mom worked for Holy Family Hospital for probably 35 years.
Mm.
My dad died when he was 52 years old, so 1988, and never got to see me. Got to see me play a couple preseason games. Never got to really see me play the high level football that I was able to do in Washington, and that was kind of sad. But he was basically worked in kind of the electronics cash registers. Was a salesman for
Mm.
cash register company here, and kind of went on calls, but he didn't. don't think he really liked to work. I think he just liked to watch his kids play ball, and he coached us in baseball. He coached my
Mm.
sister in softball, and so he was a big part of our lives athletically, and just kind of keeping us in sports. We never did play hockey, even though he was a hockey player and a baseball player in Canada. We tried at a young age, but it was too expensive, and the ice time was like 4:35 in the morning, and so never did get to do that. But he got us into everything else. Wanted us to play and see the fruits of the labor of. Didn't know much about football, even though Ronnie Lancaster from Saskatchewan Roughriders was his favorite player, and didn't know a lot about the pro game till he got down here. Then he evolved into an NFL guy, and then to see his son drafted, myself, and get a chance to play, and his boys play at a high level in baseball, and his daughter play in college. I think he just appreciated it, but he died way too young, and
Mm.
and then my mom passed away about 5 years ago, and was just kind of the rock for all of us, and just kind of kept us going in whatever, and was always at all the grandkids and great grandkids games, and just enjoyed life, and just was a amazing lady, and really appreciate both them. And so they moved down when, like I say, I was 5 years old, and we had four of us in tow. And about 2 years later, we lived in about a three-room house, two bedrooms, a living room, and a
Wow.
kitchen. Actually, four-room house. Maybe, oh gosh, two times, maybe a time twice the size of a hotel rooms. That was the house that we lived in, real small town on Rich Avenue. But we thought we had everything as kids, and until we bought our first home here in Spokane, and we all moved in there, and it was dirt for the grass, and there was no grass. We didn't have like landscaping companies there, and companies that put in grass or whatever. That was kind of your own job, but it was just dirt and in our home, and we loved it, and
Mm.
had a ball, and so that was basically the reason for coming down to the U.S. to start his family and my mom's family, and give us an opportunity, which I think was essential. I don't think we would have got those same opportunities in Canada. We might have been playing in the NHL. You never know that, but this was our way of, or my mom and dad's way of, seeing what it's going to be like, giving us a chance here in the U.S.
Well, I know also, like you've mentioned baseball a few times, and you played all three sports, right? I think your numbers retired in high school. So was baseball kind of your sport growing up? Was that the main game?
Always, my dad had a mitt on my hand when I was like 3 years old, playing catch, and being the oldest boy. My oldest sister Colleen was the oldest child, and she had some developmental issues and growing, and she was always in special learning programs through most of school. But she was probably the nicest human being you'd ever meet,
Mm.
and would love. And if you had a chance to meet her, she passed away about 3-4 years ago too. So just before, just no, like 3 years ago, just after COVID started, and just a wonderful human being. But I had a mitt in my hand, and at an early age, and we all played ball. He coached us, and as much talent as I had, I think being right-eye dominant was difficult for me to. I was talking to actually Kevin Millar about that. He was the same. He always opened his stance because he was right-eye dominant too, and that way he could see a curveball. Well, I couldn't see a curveball. I mean, I couldn't follow it very well, and a swing and a miss was usually the case if they threw me a hook. But if they threw me a fastball on a plane, I did pretty well. And so my baseball days are numbers, and I couldn't throw a curveball. I threw it
Okay.
92, 93 miles an hour in the Kingdome. We played in a state championship game, but my curveball was probably the reason it curved was because it fell from Earth gravity wise because it was going so slow. It was about 62 mile an hour. I mean, remember guys in high school said, I just got up there and was just waiting, hoping you would throw me that little whatever you had, that slow pitch. I was going to try to hit it because I knew I didn't have a chance to hit it if you threw the fastball. So that was my days were numbered in baseball. I couldn't throw or hit a curveball, and but I love the game and still love watching it. And it was pretty surreal, to play that. But football was my least favorite.
Okay.
Basketball was my sport that I love because you're always doing something. Whether it's practice, you're moving. There's movement all the time. There's different strategy. We had a good team. We went on my senior year and actually won the state championship game and the highest classification level here in the state of Washington. We beat Mercer Island. Quinn Snyder was a freshman that year, but Mercer Island had a great team, and actually they were like 28-2. We were 28-2. Go, look, guys, we got the same amount of losses as them. We got a chance again. Really didn't. If I would have known who they'd actually lost, they lost to Dunbar in Las Vegas, and they lost to Mater Dei in a Las Vegas tournament by like 2 points and 3 points. Did I really know how good they were? And then we played them and ended up beating them on a last second shot, which if you go back in history, if you ever Google it and look at it, it was a controversial game where their coach, Ed Peppel, who had won probably 4 or 5 state championships and was one of the greatest coaches, just passed away this past year, took it to the Supreme Court because there was some electronic glitches in the scoreboard. The guy had to do it by hand. And so, it was just a mess. But a riot broke out on the floors, 15,000 people in Key Arena. We actually had to have our trophy given at the hotel because there were fights and Mercer Island people were stealing our purses, which we're Shadle Park in Spokane, Washington, very, very lower middle class city in area. And Mercer Island is maybe that's where Bill Gates lives, most affluent area in the state of Washington. And they're stealing our gals' purses. What they found, God only knows.
Yeah.
But it was ironically that we won the state championship that year. And state of Washington has, not like Indiana, what they had the Hoosiers, where every classification played and you actually had a state champion. That year they had from Centralia, we were AAA, and Centralia played in the AA state championship game. They played before us, and they were 33-0 that year, and they won everything they looked at. But they had also Christian Velp and Detlef Schrempf, both played in the NBA, on their team. And they probably could have handled us, but you never know. We were scrappy. We were scrappy kids from Spokane that played hard and were coached by a great coach, Dave Robertson, and very appreciative of what he did for all of us. And he was a grumpy old coach, but he taught us gave us the right tools and the right formula to go out there and play. So, like I say, I think I told you football was my least favorite. I mean, I was a skinny kid. My freshman year, I turned out for football. I mean, I played junior national football, and I was they had weight classes, So my 7th grade year, I was on a lightweight. 8th grade year, I was on the heavyweight. And the heavyweight only because it was like 115 pounds or 120 pounds yet if you're over 120 pounds. So I was tall. I was 6'1", 6'2", but only weighed about 125 pounds. So I played quarterback and nose tackle on the so there you have it, I mean, or no, linebacker. I played quarterback and nose tackle on the lightweight team. I played quarterback and linebacker on the heavyweight team, and I just got smeared on defense and got smeared on offense. And then I said, all right, I'll give another shot. I played in my freshman year, and I didn't like it. I was getting hit, and I was skinny, and I finally grew into my body by my sophomore year and started about 3-4 games into the season, and then continued from there. And I had some city records and Shadle records until my nephew Brett came in, and by the 4th game of his junior season, he had broken all city and high school records that I once had. And of course, he went on to be, I think still holds state records for most yards and completions and all that stuff. So, but I didn't like it.
Family affair.
I started growing into my body, and I started liking a little bit more. Didn't have to play any defense. And I remember I was on the kickoff. I also was a kicker, and I'd kick kickoffs straight toe. And I kick it pretty deep, but after I kick it, the coach says, "You're not going down to cover. You run to the sidelines." Some guy chased me and tried to block me like 2 yards from the sidelines. And certainly enough, I was a safety and played against, ironically, against Chad Little from University High School. And if Chad Little rings a bell, he was raced NASCAR for the John Deere team, and now does a lot of the discipline for NASCAR and drivers and all that stuff that goes on. He's part of that committee that does that. But Chad got one and got it at the 2-yard line and ran all the way down. Sure, I'm on the sidelines watching him run it for a touchdown, and I was supposed to be the last resort. I mean, he probably would have juked me and gone in anyway, but that was my kicking and kickoff coverage. No coverage in the kickoff. It was just kickoff and run to the sidelines.
See, it's not so bad to be a late bloomer.
Yeah, that's how tough I was, So then I did have some success and went to Washington State and had a great, loved it there, and actually turned out for the baseball team for a year, but had some arm issues. And I said, I'm here to play football. And so I didn't play baseball, but still, again, that was my love for the game. And anyways, had a lot of fun down at Washington State. We had a lot of 5-6, 6-5 seasons back then. 6-5 didn't get you into anything, any bowl games. So we didn't make any bowl games. We caused some ruckus, in the 3 of the 5 years I was there. We beat the Huskies and kept them from going to the Rose Bowl. So that was always our big bowl game. You call it the Apple Cup, and we almost got them this year, 24-21, and played, our team played really good. And Coach Dickert, who I love, and I think we just lost our quarterback, Cam Ward, to the portal, but he did a lot of great things. Cam did, and appreciate his service for us Cougs. So
yeah. Well, speaking of baseball, fellow golfer too, are you a better baseball player than John Elway though? Could you take him on the baseball field?
Oh gosh, no, John. Obviously, him and he played professionally and wanted to play. I think professionally, but I think he also knew that he was limited in certain things baseball wise, and much better probably player than I ever was. But he loved the game too, and I see John quite a bit up here. He lives in Coeur d'Alene, and I'm a member across the street from a course that he's a member at in Coeur d'Alene, and so I get to see John play golf with him once in a while. But he's just so cool to see him, and played with him in Tahoe quite a bit. Ironically, we'd play the first round and I'd be doing well. Then he'd make a bet with me in the second and third rounds, to try to catch up, and he'd win money against me all the time. We'd have a friendly bet. I wouldn't say how much, but we just I kind of joked around the collar a little bit. Maybe that was the reason why and I didn't do well those next 22 or 23 years. So
well, I thought it was pretty ironic that you went to college in Washington, you grew up there, and then you get to play for the Washington at the time Redskins. But it's kind of interesting. It's different coasts, but same name, so it's kind of ironic.
Oh yeah, when people that don't know geographics think, "Oh gosh, you stayed and played the same Washington." I go, nah, it's not the Washington Seahawks. It's Washington Redskins that I end up going to play for, and it was the Washington State Cougars in the state of Washington. So they need a little work. Some people need a little work on their geographics. So.
Well, you mentioned Doug Williams earlier. You got to see him win the Super Bowl from the sideline, right? So
sure.
Did he kind of take you under his wing at all, or did you use that as a learning experience?
Yeah, Doug was a great mentor. I think when I first got there, Jay Schrader was a starter, and then he got injured, and that's when Doug came in and kind of swept things up from there. And usually Joe Gibbs' philosophy at the time was, you never lose your job to an injury.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jay was ready to come back, but as a hot hand as you go into the playoffs again, this was a strike season. This was the scab season, that they had replacement players. So I didn't even know if I was going to come back and have a place on the roster, but Joe said, you guys go out together, you come back together, you do it for the right reasons, and you'll have a place. And sure enough, he was honored his word. But as far as Jay, it was like, a lot of guys don't lose their job to injuries. They come back, they're thrust in there to play. But at that position, it's hard, if you're, you're riding a hot hand, and Joe just kind of felt in his gut that, he'd go against what he, kind of preached and say, in this case, I think we're going to stick with Doug. And that's where the conflict came. And then Jay went the following year, was traded for Jim Lachey from the Raiders, and Jim came to Washington, and Jay went to the Oakland Raiders at the time. And for me, it was a great trade because Jim Lachey was probably one of the best lockdown tackles in the NFL. And if he didn't have the injuries that he had, he probably would have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, he was that good. So it was great for me. And then, Doug got some injuries. He had an appendectomy in 1980, I think 89, 1980. I'm not sure exactly, but that's when I got my first start.
Mm-hmm.
Was then, and then came in and did enough good things, and I also obviously did some things that weren't so good that I needed to work on, and kind of took over the reins there. And from then on in, kind of Doug that first year, went back and forth, and then I got Doug retired, and I got the reins. The whole time, him and I were good buddies, and he was a great mentor, and he threw one of the most beautiful footballs I've ever seen. And nice thing about him and myself, we're both limited. Him more so just because he had more injuries at the time. And later on in my career, I had a little more injuries, but we're both the quintessential pocket QBs, where you move within the pocket. But our guys loved it. Our offensive line was set up for that, because they knew that we weren't shuffling to one side or the other, because that created trouble for them to block someone. They knew if that confines of a pocket was there, we'd step up in the pocket, move one way or the other, and made the throw. They enjoyed that, and we had a lot of success doing it. And our system was geared towards sitting in the pocket, and we did roll out. We changed the pocket bootlegs and just had some sprints and speeds that we called it, and got outside the pocket, or were actual designated to get outside the pocket. So it kept teams at guessing, because if you're just going to sit back there a lot of times in shotgun, there's not a lot you do. But if you're underneath center, which I never had one snap with Joe Gibbs, was I in a shotgun. He was old school, And so, yeah, we rolled out, we bootlegged, we did a lot of play action from there, and had a lot of success, and grateful for Coach Gibbs and the system we played in. Obviously, the athletes, to have the Hogs and the posse, and Ernest Biner and Ricky Irvins. Ernest Biner was probably I would have to say, the most underrated player in NFL. I mean, he got a lot of flack for one play in Cleveland, but as far as knowing what to do, the pass protection, run routes, run the football, he was the best. He knew the system, and performed in our system better than anyone. And I wish that the NFL would look into him as far as being a Hall of Fame, put him on the ballot, because I think he's very worthy of it as far as what he did for us and what he did for the Browns when he was there.
Well, you speak about being in the pocket, so do you kind of step back and throw some bombs to your grandson still, or how far passes do you throw him?
No, he steps back and throws some bombs to me. He throws probably a nicer spiral. My daughter played in the Lingerie Football League, which is professional indoor football for women, and she was kind of the face of it. As a father, I wasn't the proudest of what they did, but that was what they had, And I wish they would have given them a little bit more protection. But I guess what they're trying to sell is, these beautiful women that are physically and love the game, and their dads or brothers or uncles played the game, and they want to do it themselves. And she did it at a high level, and she throws a better spiral than I do. My grandson throws a better spiral than I do. I mean, it's like, wow, these guys, they didn't learn it from me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun to watch the little guy throw the ball around with him, and he's better throwing it than he is catching it right now. I think I go, as tough as he is, I go, come on, Makai, you like try to catch it on the side, catch that thing, wow. And so we're working on that part of it. But as far as throwing it and running with it, I mean, he wears me down. So.
Well, I am wondering, as a quarterback, you have to scream out the plays. Was it ever so loud in stadiums you played in where the guys couldn't really hear you? Like, what do you do in those scenarios? I've always wondered. Have you ever kind of called hike and sort of winged it a little bit and hope everyone heard the right play?
Well, I mean, you break. I mean, that's when you go ready, break, and you break, and you hope they got it. I mean, they're communicating probably back. What did he say? What did he say? And get up the line of scrimmage. And Dallas was probably one of the worst. And the other was, I mean, we probably should have. We talked about going on a silent count against Dallas, and because I think that hurt us, trying to get the crowd noise and trying to call things out. But we've been successful before, and so we did it again, and maybe it was Dallas. We did try a hard count or a silent count. It didn't work. I know that we should have done it against Kansas City, because Mo Elowanibi was our left tackle, and blessings to him. He's going against Derek Thomas in Kansas City on the weak side, my left side, blind side, and regular count, and he missed probably 2 or 3 times the count. Once I got just drilled and fumbled. The other 2 times I got back, and as I hit my 7th step, I stepped up as fast as I could just to evade, because he had a clear route. And Mo, didn't hear the snap count. And Derek Thomas is one of the greatest pass rushers ever. And he threw a no-hitter, Mo, because he couldn't get there. He was upfield so fast, and Mo was still in his stance. So there are times that I think we could have done some different things. And against Lawrence Taylor, we did have to do some different things. We made sure that if our left tackle was on the open side, meaning no tight end or whatever, if our running back had a free release route, that he didn't have a free release route against Lawrence Taylor, he had to make sure he chipped him on the way out and get a good chunk of him to just help our left tackle out. And same thing on the tight end side. If Lawrence is on the tight end side, the tight end didn't have a free release. He had to take a chunk out of Lawrence too. That's just respect for Lawrence Taylor, and arguably the greatest football player that ever
Yeah.
played defense in my estimation. And so yeah, I think crowd noise is good. I had a good voice. I could bark it out pretty good, and we normally didn't have any real troubles. We went on a kind of repetition or cadence that was repeated, and kind of teams kind of could listen to our cadence and use it as a tool for them to get a head start. But our guys were so good at getting off the ball and rhythm
Mm.
that it was so important that we just kept our snap on one, but we changed it up to two. A lot of times we changed it hard count sometimes just to keep defenses
Mm.
honest, and playing in places like New Orleans and back also in Houston in the old Houston Astrodome and the New Orleans Superdome. You had to be cognizant of that because those places are difficult, and even the Seattle Kingdome was tough. And Seattle right now is probably, in Kansas City, are the two toughest places to play, and where the most false starts happen in football. And you can even see it last night in Sunday's game. It was difficult for Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, to get on the same page, and playing in that Dallas stadium is tough, and it's a beautiful place too, by the way.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Yep.
Well, you have so many accomplishments, MVP award, Super Bowl ring, the Edgewood Trophy, among many other things. Do you have like a room? Do you display them, or how do you do it?
Well, I just put some things together here, rearranging things
Mm.
for the holidays and moving things around. I do have a nice little shelf now where got some of those the memorabilia there, and I look at those things and I think to myself, I go, how blessed and lucky I am. I play with a group of guys, and those are characters. And in the 87, 88 team, the characters were on that team, and then our 91, 92 team. I just look at our pictures of that team, and I look at the athletes and the guys that played, and I just go, man, those guys were fun. And the one thing about it is we did things in the off season, because there was no free agency, Jim, and we
Mm.
had to, we stuck around. And Joe Gibbs said, hey, he didn't make it mandatory we stuck around, but most guys did during the off season, and they lived in the area, they lived in the community, because it was important for us to do things on and off the field together. Whether it's golf, go to dinners, support someone's charitable
Mm.
foundation. We entrenched ourselves in that Washington, D.C. community. And that helped because we were bonded, from that standpoint. And I think we had player only meetings sometimes on like Saturday night before games if the things didn't go well during the week, or, a lot of times things crept up. Joe Gibbs didn't really discipline guys in front of the team, other than he put a opaque projector, guys that missed their weight room appearances, guys that missed their training room appearances. If you did that, you put your name on it. You didn't say anything else, but everyone up there looked and go, hey, come on, buddy. If they're, holding everyone accountable, he did it that way. And that was pretty, I think, charismatic of Joe, because he didn't have to, go into a rant and a tirade about who didn't do what, where, when, why, and how. He put it on put the onus on us, and to police our own selves within the
Mm.
organization, and it worked. Guys knew if they didn't or missed their weight workout with Dan Riley, or missed their training appointment with Bubba Tyer, that gosh, they better play well that week. And
Yeah.
usually they did, thank goodness, because it was going to be guys were going to hold them accountable to a higher standard, and that's kind of what we believed in.
So you speak about your relationships with your teammates, and you kind of have a bond. So it makes me wonder too about these golf tournaments, being able to stay in contact with guys like Jim McMahon, Joe Theismann, John Elway, but even have the younger guys like Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen. So that's got to be kind of special, right?
Well, Aaron I played with, and Jimmy Mack I played with in Tahoe, and Theismann I played with in Tahoe. But like I say, I've been there in the last 3 years,
Mm.
and haven't had a chance to meet Josh. I know my nephew Brett, played
Mm.
in the same conference. Josh was at Wyoming, and Brett was at Boise State. So Brett's had an opportunity to meet Josh and say he's a great guy, and fun. And my nephew Brett, who's with the Jets now, is a great
Yeah.
golfer in his own right. He hits the ball a country mile, and has got a pretty good game, to boot. So looking forward to, again, the
Mm.
off season, and wherever he ends up at after this year, or just to get out and play golf with him, and talk X's and O's with him, too.
Okay.
But so those Josh Allen I haven't played with yet, but those guys that I played with before, I do a charity event where Community Cancer Fund, which is I've found the foundation now that Rypien Foundation merged with here in Spokane. I do a joint venture with the Maryland Special Olympics out in Queenstown. It's on a Friday in third week in May, and there's this Thursday night poker night that all the guys come out to that we invite to the event, and then there's a Friday golf, which, by the way, may be the largest charitable amount of people. 72 fivesomes, two courses, 36 fivesomes on each course, so 72 fivesomes. It's about a 6 to 7 hour round. So people that are coming there to enjoy a quick round of golf don't usually enjoy this day, but they enjoy it because we bring back a lot of the old guys that I played with, guys that played before me that set the bar for me, and the guys that played after me that are, trying to do the same things that we were accomplished, So that's a fun event. And then Jim McMahon has a cannabis friendly event in Las Vegas that he'll have golf event this year that I'll be attending, and I attended last year. It was a lot of fun. And so it's a good fraternity of guys to be around. And having, been in Tahoe with Aaron Rodgers, not only see what his game has evolved to, he's getting to be a pretty good golfer, and he's just an unbelievable athlete. And in fact, Brett was telling me just in the last week and a half that he's been with the Jets, he says watching Aaron Rodgers just in practice, kind of getting ready. And he says he may be one of the most talented players he's ever seen.
Wow.
And that says a lot for a kid who's pretty talented himself, that's been around a lot of really good quarterbacks to say that. And he says, no, he is a talented guy. And I've always kind of known that. I've watched him play, Aaron, for so many years. He makes the game look so easy. He's got these 10.5 size hands, and gets back there and just flicks it from the hip. And he's just so calm and cool and collected. I always loved watching him play. As I watch all these young guys play, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, yesterday, and Jalen Hurts, unbelievable. And Dak Prescott playing as well as he's playing right now. It's fun to watch guys play at a high level like that. And Aaron's been doing it for a lot of years. He should probably have 2 or 3 more Super Bowls in there, but a couple times his defense wasn't as strong as he needed to be. This year would have been incredible, as good as the defense is of the Jets, and what he could have done. Is if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas type thing. But I think they would have had a Merry Christmas there in New York if he would have stayed healthy. It would have been fun to watch him, because he loves he loves that limelight, and I think he's perfect fit for the Jets. And I hope he just gets a year under his belt with that team. And if he does, I think things should be pretty cool. And I love Aaron anyway. He's just always just kind of pretty much, he's going to tell it like it is, which is good.
And so, Brett, do you reach out to your nephew and give him advice, or do you kind of stay back? How do you kind of handle that?
I kind of stay back. The game's changed a lot, and like when I was with Peyton in 2001 for a year, I was with him. I'd love the X's and O's part of it, and he knew I wasn't a threat to play. I was just there to kind of be so second set of eyes and go into meetings and talk about X's and O's, and I had a great rapport with him, and it was awesome. And I think Brett and I don't necessarily talk X's and O's much, because times have changed and terminology has changed, and he's not familiar a lot with what we did in our three numbered system as they are into calling things by name. It's like a foreign language to me. So I'm just there for support and say, hey, thinking about you, good luck this week, and no matter what, just keep working hard in what you're doing at your trait, and time will tell. This year's been kind of difficult for starting quarterbacks. I think there's 6 or 7 guys out right now, starters. So just keep your head on a swivel and be ready to go if you're called upon. And it's all you can ask. I wish it would have worked with the Rams, and it's unfortunate. He loved that being in that system, with Matthew, and Matthew enjoyed having him around as coach. Sean McVay loved having him around too. I think it was great. And he loved that part of it, being able to help another guy and just be another set of eyes. Is kind of, I was my last year that in the league. I know he wants to play. And I say, always keep yourself ready. Just go do whatever you have at practice and better yourself there and in the weight room and just in the community. So I think he understands and does pretty good with that in general. So.
Well, you mentioned your foundation. How can people find it? Just on the website and get involved that way?
You look under the website. It's called Community Cancer Fund.
Okay.
Basically what this was in Spokane area is Mark Few ran the Coaches versus Cancer for a long period of time, and he's been such a great component of helping in our community, and obviously one of the greatest basketball coaches maybe when it's all said and done ever. He's just done an amazing job at Gonzaga and still is doing incredible things in the basketball team and our community. Well, I think him and Marcy, wanted to know, where the dollars were going to. And I think part of that was if he's putting a lot of work in, he wants the money to stay local here in the community. So we formed another organization called the Community Cancer Fund, which was kind of the adult arm and kind of what Mark and Marcy put their collective minds together to help kick off, and he's still a great supporter of that. And that they were the adult arm, and the Rypien Foundation up about 6 years ago was the pediatric arm. And we felt to leverage our dollars and bring more in that we would merge together. So the Rypien Foundation, Community Cancer Fund merged, and the Community Cancer Fund runs a couple of wonderful events. They just did a race, in the end of September that was incredible. It was the first one done, but more importantly, they've done a golf tournament and a entertainment in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, that is their biggest fundraiser. And it raises about $5 million, which is pretty amazing. And about $1.5 million, $2 million go to costs, that are affiliated with it. But with those costs, you get to pretty good entertainment on Friday night. Friday's a pro-am, Thursday's the kickoff, and it's the last weekend in July. Thursday night's a kickoff party and the pairings party. Friday's a pro-am. Friday night at the Coeur d'Alene Resort Golf Course, they have a little venue there that they have entertainment. And this year, Eddie Vedder was the entertainment, and he was unbelievable. Not only was he engaging, he stayed. He didn't have to stay for as long as he did, but he wanted to talk a little bit about the charity. He knew a lot about the charity, and which was great. He was very, very good to the people and sang. And man, that guy can sing. He was just on stage by himself, and he performed for about 2 hours, and it was memorable because I just remember the people seeing the people's faces and how excited they were and happy they were to see Eddie Vedder up there. I mean, he's Pearl Jam's finest, up on stage by himself with an acoustic guitar and a regular electric guitar, just strumming away. And then we have the celebrity event, which is we bring about probably 20 celebs in. Wayne Gretzky comes over, and a lot of the people from Gaza Ranch, which is one of the golf courses in Coeur d'Alene here. They have a lot of their financial supports comes from there for this event. We do a little celebrity event where people can come. There's thousands of people walking the golf course, palling around with all the celebs that are in it. And that night, we do at the end of the lake. There's 2 homes there that 2 of our board members own, and they put up a big stage. And it's only for about 300-400, very intimate group of all the sponsors that came to help the tournament. They get taken down on a boat, or they can come on their own boat or whatever, and they dock up. John Elway's been there before, and so I think it's cool. And then this last year was Journey was our entertainment, and they did a wonderful job. I actually missed the concert because I've been going to a buddy of mine, Clark Gillies golf event for probably 20 years, and he was a Hall of Fame hockey player for the New York Islanders, passed away a couple of years ago, and so to honor him, I keep going back to that event. So I fly out on a red eye after this event on Saturday night into Long Island and playing his charity event on Sunday and Monday, and then fly back Tuesday. But it was great. Again, we raised about $5 million, and all that money stays locally in the Spokane area and helps. There's like a adult part of Ronald McDonald House. This is Ronald, and supports both. This charity both supports the Ronald McDonald House, which is kind of like brings in families that are kids that are going through treatment, and the adult, where there's adults going through a lot of treatment, and the family comes in to support and be a part of that support system too. So it's a wonderful cause. And again, it's Community Cancer Fund. A great deal. You can get on there and either look at how you can come on out and be a part of it. If you're in the area of Spokane, Coeur d'Alene area, come on out and buy a ticket for the Saturday for any of the people that are, watching your program. If you got a good watch, then if they're in the area here, come on out and be a part of it. So appreciate it.
I'll put a link in the episode bio as well when it comes out.
Absolutely. That'd be great.
Well, it's great to have you on. Thanks for giving me some time. What else is on the agenda then? It sounds like you're putting up some Christmas lights, or you're kind of doing the finishing touches.
Yeah, got a lot. The kids come in the end of the week, and so it's going to be 100% go. Got to get some rest in somewhere in between. But putting up the lights and knowing what it's going for, who's coming out to enjoy them, and really puts a smile on your face and keeps you going to the wee hours too. And get things all set up for everyone to get here. So,
Well, it was fun getting to know you. Thanks for doing this. I'll let you get
all
to it,
right.
Mark.